Okay, so let's kick it off. So welcome to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this Runecast Insight. Today we're having a look at vulnerability management. One of the things I would like to start with is, who is actually, of everyone that's joined, who is actually, using Runecast at the moment? Any of you using Runecast Analyzer? So let's just do a quick poll and have a look and see, how many of you are using Runecast at the moment? Some interesting figures coming in. We've got 70% of you have answered the question.
60% no, have not used it. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got, about 30% of you are using Runecast at the moment. Some of you, like 11%, have only explored the functionality. There's 3% that are looking to check out the functionality, and 60% not using Runecast at the moment. So that's some interesting figures, because I think, even if you're using Runecast, if you're just exploring it, or if you're planning to look at it, or you've never looked at it, this is going to be a really helpful webinar for you, so that you can see, exactly what you can achieve when you start using it. And, if you're only just starting to explore the functionality, hopefully today we can, highlight for you and open up, exactly what you can achieve with Runecast, how that's going to help you in your environment. Okay, so let's end that poll and we can share these results. Okay, but I'm going to jump onto the next slide and let's have a look at what we're going to actually, see today. So what we're looking at is, why do you bother doing vulnerability management? What are the main elements of the processes of doing vulnerability management? How are we going to assess this? Why is it important to assess this? And what are the stages of going through, to become, to make your environment excellent, basically? When I've presented this, I'm going to hand over to Steve, who is going to talk to us about, how Runecast enables the management and the assessment of our environments. And he's going to walk us through a little demo and show us exactly what's going on. So I'm a little bit late on this, but I'm Steve Salisbury. I'm a product marketing specialist for Runecast. And I'm here today with Steve Betterson. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Steve Betterson. I'm one of the pre-sales technical engineers at Runecast. And as Steve's mentioned, we're going to be looking at the Runecast demo environment that I have, and particularly focusing on vulnerabilities and how we manage vulnerabilities with Runecast Analyzer. So hopefully you'll find that very useful. Thank you, Steve.
Cheers, Steve. So yeah, you're joined by the two Steves today, and I'm going to hit you again with another poll just before we get going. Before we start, how well do you think that you're currently achieving your vulnerability management in your environment? It's a difficult question to answer, so we've tried to make it fairly simple. With, we're not doing 1 to 100. We have just, I don't know, poor, fair, good, excellent. It's a difficult question to answer here. And generally, you will find that most people will say that they're doing fair, poor, or they're not sure. It's a very, especially for those of you who don't have something in your environment which is showing you, you know, where your vulnerabilities are, it's a really difficult thing to stay on top of. So I think the results here are going to be very interesting. We have 3% with excellent. So that's very interesting to know. Okay, we've got 74% participation. If anyone else would like to jump in on that. Let's give it a couple of seconds. So we have 80% participation. 5% of you think that you're doing excellent in your environments. I'm really glad. I hope you're the ones who are using Runecast. We've got 24% saying they're good, 29% saying fair, 13% saying poor, and 29% don't know. So, you know, these are kind of the figures that I would expect to see. You know, if you're using a decent tool to monitor your environment, such as Runecast, you know, hopefully you're going to be in the excellent zone. You know, if you think you're doing good or fair, then, you know, we'll see that a bit later on when we're going to have a little look at maturity models and stuff like that. But it's very difficult to understand exactly where you are with your vulnerability management. So, I mean, I think these figures actually, you know, respectively do show exactly, you know, how people feel about, you know, what's going on in their environments. You know, it's not easy to judge. And it's, you know, vulnerabilities like anything else, it's very difficult to stay on top of them. So, you know, and to understand fully, you know, without a full ability to do audit reporting, it's very difficult to understand, you know, how you can actually stay on top. So hopefully we're going to show you today that you can stay on top of this, that you know, we can provide that ability for you to, you know, make the right moves forwards. So why do you do vulnerability management? It's a good question. It's an obvious question, but, you know, there are some things that we need to understand before we sort of dive into the deep end of exactly, you know, why am I doing this? So, you know, what are vulnerabilities? What's CISA? And, you know, maybe you've not heard of CISA. We'll discuss that in a little bit, but CISA is very important. And KEVs, you know, what are they? Why are they important? These are things that we really need to, you know, just have a little look at before we deep dive. So vulnerabilities are common vulnerabilities and exposures. I mean, they're basically, you know, it's a hole in your environment. Someone can hack their way through that. They're going to come in, ruin your environment. Obviously, I need to lock that down. You know, I need to close the door. I need to lock the door. I need to make sure that my environment is completely safe. So CISA basically provides us a list of the publicly disclosed security flaws. And, you know, this is something that we're going to get into in a second, but they're supervised by MITRE. It's, you know, an American structure that's been put together. You know, if you're working for the DoD, you know, any American government or financial institutes, you need to conform to this. So what Runecast has done is we've chosen the strongest set of compliance for vulnerabilities and implemented them in Runecast to make sure that, you know, our customers are 100% secure. You know, if the American Department of Defense relies on this, you can be sure that if you're using this, you're going to be 100% secure. So CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's part of the Homeland Security. And yeah, I mean, basically what they're doing is they're saying, you know, we found all of these vulnerabilities, or they've been reported to us. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to compile a list of it so that you can check against this and make sure you're secure. But, you know, there are some important things about this list. and the main important things, as Steve is going to show you a bit later on, is the KEVs. So if you've not heard of the KEVs, these are the known exploited vulnerabilities. So this is generally, and again, Steve's going to show you this a bit later on, but this is generally where you need to start. You know, we know from CISA that these vulnerabilities have been exploited, as they say, in the wild. So basically in people's environments. So, you know, we need to close the doors here. We need to make sure that we're secure and safe, and that we're not being exploited in these ways. CISA provides, as we can see here, a KEV catalog, and each one of these KEVs has a due date. So if you're working either with or for the American DoD, you know, federal or financial institutes, then you need to have these KEVs dealt with by a specific date. If not, it's a nice to have, but we still need to know that these are known exploited vulnerabilities. We need to deal with these first in our environment and make sure that we're secure. So just before I run on and everyone gets tired of my voice, Steve, do we have any questions in the background at the moment, or does anyone have any questions that they'd like to bring up?
No questions so far.
Okay, give me a shout if we do.
Yeah, we'll do.
So what are the main elements of the vulnerability management process? So, you know, now we're starting to get into, we understand what vulnerabilities are. Now, how do I start to deal with these? You know, what's the process I need to go through? So if we have a look at this, we've got, and you know, it's kind of like looking at anything. When you look at these sorts of situations, it's a bit scary because it's a never-ending cycle. But actually, you know, what we're going to start with is a list like this, and then, you know, using Runecast, our list is going to go down and down and down and down and down. Hopefully we're going to get into a, sorry, I can see it's that background situation, but hopefully we're going to get to a situation where we've got this and it's going to start going like this. Now, I know this seems like a really weird analogy, but the point here is that, you know, once we've started tackling our vulnerabilities, we're going to bring those all the way down. And then hopefully we're going to bring it down to 0. And then what's going to happen is new vulnerabilities are going to get released. So once we're at 0, there'll be some new vulnerabilities released. Then we're going to deal with those. And that's why I was doing this. Sorry, I can see the camera breaking up a bit, but that's why I was doing this. So, you know, they'll be released, then we'll deal with them. They'll be released, then we'll deal with them. And that's when we're in the excellent zone. You know, that's when we've really started to take control of our environment. And that's where, you know, we can be really happy that when we send off that report to management, they're going to see that we're completely on top of all our vulnerabilities and we've got no issues out there at all. So where do we start? We start at the top, as always. So we're going to discover our vulnerabilities. So, you know, using Runecast, we can discover those vulnerabilities, but now, you know, there needs to be some actionable intelligence there. It's not something that's, you know, going to be provided by Runecast. This has to be, you know, your choice. You know, where are my vulnerable assets? You know, what's the most important asset to me? And obviously my production is going to be the most important. I might have some test areas, so I'm going to deprioritize those, but, you know, I need to hit the most important assets here. So I'm going to assess the vulnerabilities in those assets, and then I need to prioritize. And this, again, this is where the KEVs come in. So, you know, obviously I want to prioritize the known exploited vulnerabilities. And this is something that Steve's going to show you a bit later on as well, you know, how we can prioritize that. So I'm going to prioritize those vulnerabilities. And then I need to remediate. So you need a solution, a platform, which is going to show you how to remediate. You know, we want to break away from that break fix situation where something goes wrong, then I go Googling it, or, you know, spending hours on the internet looking for how I solve that problem. I don't need that. What I need in my environment right now is something that says, here's a problem, here's how you fix it, now I can go and do it. And that's exactly what you need to remediate your vulnerabilities. So again, Steve can show you that a bit later on, about how we can achieve that. Then we're going to need to do a rescan. So we're going to need to assess, what we've remediated, what we now need to get on with, because, I don't need a system that's telling me, well, you still need to fix this when actually I fixed it already. So we need to do a rescan, we need to do a reassessment there. And then, we're going to want reporting on that status. So either my management or myself is going to need to see, what have I fixed? What needs to be worked on next? How am I progressing with my vulnerability management? And unfortunately, that's where we get back to the top for discover vulnerabilities again, because it's a fortunate, unfortunate situation. Fortunately, hopefully, I will have got to the situation where I've actually remediated most of my issues and I'm back to this situation. But what we know is that there are always vulnerabilities which are being released, new vulnerabilities that are found. So there's always going to be this situation going on where, I need to double check back just occasionally to make sure those 1 or 2 or, sometimes 10 are released at a time. Those vulnerabilities that come in, I can just reassess, check that, go back through and make sure that I'm 100% secure. So, Steve, do we have any questions at the moment? Anything in the chatter? Is there anything on anyone's minds out there at the moment? Are you, is everything clear to you guys? Is there anything that you'd like to, bring up at the moment, or shall I just push on?
Nothing so far, Steve.
Okay, so hopefully that's super clear. So the next 2 parts, I wanted to do them separately, and then I thought actually they kind of join together. So I think, how do you do vulnerability assessment and why is it important? I mean, Steve is really going to show you, how you do the vulnerability assessment. Why is it important? Well, I think we've already seen that because, if you're vulnerable, if you're exposed, you're open to being, you're open to huge problems. So, no one wants downtime. We need to secure these floors. I think, it's obvious why it's important, especially when you look in the news of what's going on, all of the, there was recently quite a lot in the news about, well, from where I am at the moment in the Czech Republic, there's been quite a few hacks to financial institutes. So, obviously we need to be secure. But, going back to where I asked you at the beginning, how do you feel about where you are in your environment with your vulnerability management? I think, it's great to understand, where you can actually sit and what the stages of vulnerability management are. So we've got a compliance maturity model here. This is something that we've put together to try and enable you to understand, exactly, where you sit with that. So reactive, that's what we were talking about earlier. I don't have any tools to deal with this. I find out a problem, I go online, I look for it, I find the answer, now I go and fix it. I've just wasted a whole load of time. So, that's the first stage in our maturity model. And then preliminary. So, this is where you're starting to try and understand, what are your needs within the company? What are the basic policies that we need to build up? But you're still not getting on top of everything because you're kind of in a building process there. And then you're defined. So we've defined exactly, the processes that we need in place. We've deployed, it's not just about what do we need to cover here. It's about how are we going to achieve this as well. So, defining is about, okay, I need to, understand the vulnerabilities. I need to understand how to achieve, compliance to make sure that these vulnerabilities are secure. But also I need a tool in place to actually, deal with those vulnerabilities. So, that's part of the defining structure, is that it's not just understanding how to put the processes and the policies in place in your company. It's about, okay, so what am I going to do with that? And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to choose the tool that's right for me, that's going to make sure I can actually deal with those vulnerabilities. And then we start to move on a little bit. So then we get integrated. This is where a lot of companies, will look at this sort of area and say, well, we've already defined, but no, you haven't. So, integration is really, okay, so your DevOps team has defined what they need, but has your SecOps team defined what they need? And are you actually working together to make sure that all of your needs work together and, hold the full structure together? And a lot of companies, you'll have security guys who pass information on to, the admins and say, well, we need this to be secured. We need that to be secured. Well, how do you achieve that? You need a platform that's going to enable you to achieve that in a unified way. So, using something like Runecast, you can actually build your custom profiles that, if a security team's saying, we need this implemented, they can actually build a custom profile around that, so that when the security team comes back and says, well, have you done that? They can just pop out a report and say, well, yeah, thank you very much. We have a custom profile on this, and I can show you that. So, it's another strong part of Runecast, but it's also another strong part of the maturity model, is making sure that your teams are really working well together and that you don't have any divide. I mean, if you've got a gap in the middle, you're going to have problems. So, we need the teams to work effectively together with effective controls and to be able to measure the compliance in the environment. And finally, optimized. So, I like to refer to optimized as the excellent zone. So, this is where you've got a fully compliant environment. You've brought yourself down to that tiny gap where you get new bits of information coming in for your vulnerabilities. You can deal with them. You're fully optimized. You're running on full steam. And, this is where your teams are working really well together. And you've got that complete compliance across your environment. So this is where we actually start to be able to when an auditor comes in and says, how's your environment doing, we can use Runecast and say, well, here's a report, thank you very much, we've been compliant for the last 6 months, year, however long we've been using Runecast. So, this is a really good, it's where we all want to be. But at the moment, I'd just like to take a pause, and I'd like you to just have a look at this maturity model and think about your answer earlier on. I'm not going to do another poll on it, but what I'd like you to think about is, where you said earlier on that you think you were sort of, in the middle, or, you're excellent, you're fully optimized. Reflect on that. Ask yourselves, like, is that really where I am? Or am I actually a little bit further down? And do I need to do a little bit of work to get to optimized? Because, for us at Runecast, it's not about, you say, I think I'm doing excellent. And, we're not just going to sit back and go, that's great. We want you to understand, like, are you doing really well? Or, is there a little bit more that you can achieve so that you maintain that 100% uptime, and that, you don't have, any problems going forwards in the future. So have a little think about that. And I said I wasn't going to do a poll. I lied. So, but before I move to that, I'd like to give you a moment to actually think about that. And I see that we've got some stuff in the chat. Steve, are there some questions there, or?
There's no questions. There was just somebody had some trouble with their audio, but I think that's been rectified that side. So there is one question here that's just come up. A lot of people want a set and forget tool where we apply an agent and it manages either assessment and remediation in a report and a button push. Is this an immature mindset? Question mark.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's an immature mindset. I've been asked this over the last couple of years many times. And it's, it's the old question of, can I have a button to just press this and make it all go away? Or, the way Runecast currently functions is that we provide the scripts that you can, if you want to remediate something, you can create a custom script to your environment. So, whatever you've named your hosts, it will populate that for you. And you can then run that script. So a set and forget tool, this is actually, I would say there are two different mindsets on this. So there's a more of an enterprise mindset on this, and there's an SMB mindset on this. So with enterprise, they really need to be thinking, especially when you've configured your environment for a very specific reason. And you don't just want someone going in there who's maybe a new sysadmin and they just go in and see, oh, look, there's a problem. Let's click a button. My problem's gone away. Actually, no, you've just created a problem because the environment is configured for a specific reason. So, if you've configured for specific reasons, you need people to be making intelligent decisions on how to remediate, where to remediate. Now you've got the SMB side of it, which is where actually a lot of people do ask, can we have a button, click and remediate, which is something that we're considering in the roadmap right now. But that is something that, if you've got a very small company and you've got one sysadmin and he's not just looking after the VMware, he's actually maintaining the hardware, he's looking after all of the apps that are running there as well. He's got a lot of work for just one person. So that's where this sort of scenario comes in, where I can just, as one man, I can say, okay, I understand my environment, please remediate this, please remediate that. I don't have that much time to, deal with that sort of thing. So I would say that, it's not an immature mindset. It just depends on exactly, which type of environment that you're working in, and, what your requirements are. And of course, if and when Runecast does introduce that sort of, one-click remediation, that will be something that you would, as with everything for security reasons, you would actually have to turn that on. It wouldn't just be automatically populated there so that you've got any click-happy guy making any mistakes in your environment. So I hope that answers the question. So I think you've all had a good chance to think about, the question I asked you earlier on, which was, how do you think you're doing in your environment? Now that you've seen the compliance maturity model, I would like to ask you, how do you think, again, once again, how mature are your compliance efforts in your organization? So let's just run a quick poll on that. And it will be interesting to see, because we previously had 5% who were saying that they thought they were excellent. So we're just up to 50% of people answering the question. So about 30% don't know, which is fair enough, especially if you're not running Runecast. It's difficult to tell. So we now have 6% who think they're optimized, 20% think they're on integrated. Hello, we've got some new figures coming in. We're on 66% of people participating. I mean, you know, if you don't want to participate, you don't have to, but it, you know, these are figures that, you know, it's all, it's not going to link it up with your username or anything else, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. So yeah, we've got about 70% of people have participated now. So 15% think you're in the reactive mode. So hopefully, you know, Steve's going to be able to show you exactly how you can change that with Runecast. We've got 18% in preliminary, 15% again in defined, 18% integrated, and 6% believe you're optimized. You know, good job, you 6%. I believe you're probably using Runecast. So that, you know, those are some really interesting figures there. And I think, you know, we've come to a point now, I think I've bored you to death enough. So I'm going to hand over to Steve, who can enlighten you into the ways of Runecast. And, you know, we can really start to see how we can take control of our environments.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Steve, for that detailed insight into what vulnerabilities are, the role of CISA. You've referenced known exploited vulnerabilities as well, which we'll cover in the demo in a minute or so. And of course, that vulnerability management lifecycle, defining those key stages. And as I run through the demo of Runecast Analyzer, what I'm trying to get across, and hopefully you'll see how our solution really proactively aligns to these steps in the vulnerability management lifecycle, and how you can really take control of your environment. So I'm going to just share out my screen now for the applicant to share, and I will just check in with Steve. Can you see everything?
Yeah,
my screen,
I can
Steve?
see. Looks good to me.
Excellent. So before I walk through this Runecast user interface and we talk about vulnerabilities, I think it's probably a good starting point that I briefly explain what Runecast Analyzer is and how it works. So Runecast Analyzer is a software platform solution that proactively analyzes your IT systems, and it's looking for vulnerabilities, it's looking at security compliance and best practice alignment, and much of what Steve has covered already. And it exposes potential issues before they can cause major outages or lead to even security breaches. So as well as identifying these potential issues, Runecast Analyzer provides also the resolution guidance and remediation steps to mitigate these potential outages, and of course to reduce that possibility of having a security breach, which nobody wants. So how does Runecast Analyzer do that? Well, what we do is we take all of this human readable information that comes from various sources, and those include knowledge base articles, so that might be VMware's knowledge base articles, vendor best practice guidelines, we have security compliance profiles, so things like GDPR, ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials, and many other compliance profiles that we are able to analyze your systems against. But in the case of vulnerabilities, as Steve has mentioned and discussed, we get that information from CISA and MITRE. So what do we do with this information? We take this information and create what we call machine-based rules. And it's with our patented AI engine. So what we do is we run these rules against your system, against your IT systems, to identify these weaknesses, threats and vulnerabilities before they've actually happened. So it's very much a proactive approach rather than reactive. Term I like to use is prevention is better than cure. So let's turn our attention to the Runecast Analyzer main dashboard and interface. So there's lots of things going on here, but what I want to do is put this into a little bit of context. So these are the systems that we can analyze against. So you can see there, I've got a couple of VMware vCenter environments there, VMware Horizon. We've got NSXT Manager connected, and we've got VMware Cloud Director. We've also got some cloud presence there, AWS and Runecast, and our cloud coverage is going to increase. I can't say any more than that, so watch this space. We can also analyze against Kubernetes environments and containerization, which is becoming a lot more popular now. And of course, last but not least, we can analyze against operating systems, both Windows and Linux devices. So that's a little bit of context. What we're seeing here is quite a bit of configuration analysis that we're doing against knowledge base articles, best practices, vulnerabilities is what we're going to concentrate very much on, and these security compliance profiles as well. There are many other features of our product. We can do hardware compatibility checks on your hardware. We can do simulations of upgrades. We can do custom profiles. These are things, if you're interested in and want a full demo of the product, we'd be happy to do that. Please reach out to us afterwards. Today, I want to concentrate on vulnerabilities. So this widget here, vulnerabilities detected, it looks pretty bad from the outset. This is telling me I have 97 vulnerabilities in my environment. So Runecast Analyzer has scanned all of those systems and has detected 97 vulnerabilities. Let's go and take a look at some of those. This particular line here indicates the sort of what's happened over a period of time, and it's showing that, you know, I've had an increase. As Steve was mentioning, we're trying to get that overall number down as close to zero as we can. My environment's looking pretty bad at the moment, but let's go and take a look. So these are the vulnerabilities that come up, and this is what you can see here. So there are various customizable things that you can do. You can filter out, and you can look at different products, different layers that they're impacting. But probably the first step, and of course, we've got some things that are passing over here. You've got details of the vulnerability that come from CISA, products and layers affecting, and the overall result here. So if something gets a green tick passed, every single object that vulnerability applies to has to pass. So this could actually change if your systems change, you add new virtual machines, you add new hardware. You know, what was once you know, passing could become a failed status because you have a new object that's failing. So what Runecast Analyzer does, it keeps you on top of your vulnerability management. Step one would be, for me, and Steve mentioned this earlier, would be to filter out the known exploiters. These are the things that are critical. These are the things that have happened in the wild. And just a quick filter here, filtering on critical and major, known exploited and failed. Out of the 200 issues that I have in this vulnerabilities, we had 97 as it showed. 17 of those are known exploited vulnerabilities. So these are the ones. Step one would be looking to address these vulnerabilities, these known exploited vulnerabilities. And I'm just going to pick on this one here. So nice and easy, a single click into this one gives us the information of this vulnerability, and it's to do with VMware. It's a remote code execution vulnerability. I'm not going to delve into the context of all of this, but you can see here at the top, there's reliable evidence that this vulnerability has been exploited in the wild. This has been reported to CISA. Steve referenced earlier about that CISA KEV due date for government organizations and military, and that's what that due date is there for. There's also details of the original source and information of this vulnerability. So as I look through here, this is telling me, it's giving me a kind of range. It's affecting more than one VMware product here. It's giving some information around the resolution, known attack vectors, and there's various response matrix. Now I know that this is affecting my ESXi hosts. How do I know that? We've got up here, these are the 7 objects that it's affecting. If I go into the analysis findings, this is telling me that I've got 2 vCenter environments, 6, 7, and a 7, and it's impacting on all of these ESXi hosts here. So I can go back to the issue description here, and I can scroll down and I can look at the response matrix. So what it's telling me here, there's some workarounds, but also the fixed version is this version of, depending on what the version of my host is, this is the fixed version, and this is what I need to do. So the name of the game is remediate those problems, mitigate that vulnerability, reduce that attack vector. And what we want to see is that all of those 7 objects there turn green. So that's step 1. I will be concentrating on known exploited vulnerabilities. Step 2, I would be looking to concentrate then on the non-exploited vulnerabilities. So still critical and major, filtering out those are the ones that are going to be important. I can see here what we've got failing here. I've got 65 of those, and again, same principle, single click into those. Let's deal with the problem. You can see here on this particular one, there are 33 objects in my environment for this major vulnerability, but I've still got 4 failing, so I'm getting that overall status of failed. Now, with all of this, you want to be able to report this out. So again, we can export all of this out into a CSV format or a PDF file for reporting. We can include the affected objects with the findings, or we could just have a high-level report and export and download those out, or export those out for management purposes, and then being able to track it as well. There's one particular one, I'm just going to flip to another screen, which I want to show, because we talked about remediation scripts and how we can offer some remediation steps, again, increasing the efficiency, being able to get on top of vulnerabilities, but also offering a way to generate a script to fix a problem. So this particular one here is it's got a severity of major. It's vulnerability here. There's the CVE reference number. It's not a known exploited. It happens to be another VMware problem. It's looking at I think a SIM broker service that needs to be shut down or stopped. If I look in the analysis findings, it's affecting the same usual suspects here. We've got 3 hosts in this environment, 4 ESXi hosts in this vCenter environment. But here's the good thing. Here's the cool thing about Runecast Analyzer. We can offer some remediation scripts. So I can select either one of these vCenters. I may not want to apply this to all of my hosts, so I could select, but let's just leave all of them selected here. Here's a summary of what those remediation actions are. So this is going to set the SIM server service policy to start and stop manually. Great. So I'm going to generate this script here. And here we go. We have a Power CLI script. You can see there it's populated my 3 hosts into the script. I can then copy that script or download that script, attach it to a ticket, or it was asked in that question, have we got a button where we can just remediate instantly and fix all our problems? We deliberately don't do that. You can download this script. This is to stop somebody making a change in a live environment that perhaps they shouldn't do without a change request. So that's about as far as we go. We can get to the point where we can offer you scripts to run against your environments to mitigate those problems and to reduce that security breach or potential security breach. Step 3 would be, as we're trying to get that number of vulnerabilities down to 0, we'd then be tackling, if we clear out these filters, once we've dealt with those critical and majors and those known exploiters, I'd be then looking at, targeting my medium and lows. And again, they're vulnerabilities. They're still important to look at. They may be low risk, medium risk, but you still want to be looking at this and to try and get your overall status of this number here, this 97 vulnerabilities down to a minimum, down to 0. That's the ultimate goal, which Steve covered. So those are the 3 steps. Again, this, as Steve mentioned, you get your vulnerabilities down to 0 and you've mitigated those problems. There are new vulnerabilities coming out all the time. CISA are releasing details all the time. When vulnerabilities do come out, we try to get those, well, we aim to get those into our system within a 24-hour period. So we're trying to keep our Runecast Analyzer customers on top of their vulnerability management. And a good example of that was when the Log4j, everybody remembers it, that came out, that remote code execution vulnerability. We were able to get that into the Runecast system within 24 hours, and our customers were able to deal with that problem very, very quickly. So in terms of the management, the vulnerability management lifecycle, I'm hoping I've kind of aligned this to what Steve showed in that diagram earlier, how we align to those steps in a very proactive way to successfully stay on top of vulnerability management. We are able to discover in a very automated way. Our users, our customers aren't spending hours searching, Googling, looking at reading information. We're literally taking that information, scanning your environment, very much an automated approach. And then through that analysis, we're telling you where you're vulnerable within your environment across all of your platforms, across all your systems that you're connected to. Then there's that ability to prioritize. So I've shown you that we can filter out those known exploiteds, we can filter out critical issues, major issues. We can filter out against the different products, against the different layers. And that's how we are able to categorize and prioritize those. Then there's the remediation. And in many cases, in all cases, we're showing you how to remediate, where to go, the information's there on that page. But in cases where we can offer scripts, we're providing those scripts to help you with that remediation. But then there's the ability to verify. It's all well and good. We've mitigated some issues, some vulnerabilities. We can see what's been passing, we can see what's been failing, and we can do this on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and we can export those results out. So we can always keep on top and keep track of our vulnerability management using Runecast Analyzer. So really, in summary, and then of course, the reporting side follows that verifying remediation. We can then report out and verify that we've actually what we've done through that analysis, through the fact that we've remediated, we run the analysis, and we should see those objects turn into a pass state. That's the ultimate goal. So in summary, how does Runecast Analyzer, or how has Runecast Analyzer benefited our existing customers with vulnerability management? Well, we've simply taken away all of that human time-consuming manual process of having to search, find, and apply this information across the systems. Things are going to get missed out. And we've done that, systems are getting very complex. And we've done that through automation. Also being able to quickly address any vulnerabilities identified, and importantly, going forwards, stay on top of new potential threats as and when they're discovered and reported through CISA. I hope that's been useful. I hope that's the demo has shown the power of Runecast Analyzer in terms of how we can manage our vulnerabilities, how we can stay on top of them, how we can remediate and fix those, how we can report and stay on top of these potential threats. I hope that's been useful. If there's anything of interest that you've seen or heard from both me and Steve, we'd be more than happy to take some questions. I'll hand you back to Steve.
I think we can hand ourselves back to each other.
Are there any questions popped up?
It's Q&A time, but yeah, I've answered a couple of questions online. if you guys need some contacts and you want to talk further, I've had a couple of questions about battle cards. So if you'd like to speak further, please contact me at steve.salisbury@runecast.com. And we can have a discussion about that. We don't publicly disclose our battle cards like every other company, because there are laws around that, so we can't do that for you. But we can have a discussion with you about, especially Skyline came up. We can have a discussion with you around Skyline. There are some very good points to be made about Skyline. And it's definitely a worthwhile conversation. So please definitely contact me directly, and we can have a chat about that. We do also have a question in the Q&A area. All of the vulnerabilities are having a remediation plan in the report, ? Because some other solutions for vulnerability management do not have remediation plans for all the vulnerabilities. So this is something which has two sides to it, and maybe you can, I don't know if you can pull something out of your hat, Steve, because we've got the remediation scripts, but we're constantly building on those.
Yeah, absolutely. I think today we have over 550 remediation steps across the entire Runecast Analyzer suite. We're still not so many in the vulnerability side, so that's something that we're increasing at the moment and looking to increase. But in terms of best practice, remediation steps, there are hundreds in the system. So if I look at remediation available, I can search here, and anything with this particular symbol here at the end is showing us that we have remediation steps for those particular best practice guidelines. So yes, they're growing all the time. We are increasing that all the time in the product. Every release, there's new scripts being added to the product.
And that's I think that's not the only thing here, is that generally what you'll find in Runecast is that if there's not a remediation script, what you will actually get is a line of code that you can implement. So wherever there is an answer, we provide the answer. I've not come across anything in Runecast myself that does not have an answer of how to remediate, or if there's not a full remediation that's been brought out. I mean, for things like Log4Shell, when that first came out, there were workarounds. There weren't full remediations for that. So we do provide the workarounds if there's not a full remediation. So you will find, when you're looking through Runecast, that actually there is an answer to everything.
Yeah, I think there's three things. If there's no remediation script, there's usually a resolution or a way to fix the problem. If there isn't a fix to the problem, there'll be a workaround with some information that the fix is on its way. So those are the three things that you look for.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of questions from Andrea, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm just pinging you a message now. I think that because you've got such a lot of questions, it would be a better idea if we had a one-to-one call, and we could have a chat about what you need, what you're looking for, and we can run you through exactly how the remediation scripts are working and things like that. And I would love to answer you right now, but I do believe we are coming up on the hour. So yeah, please, I'm just going to send you my email address. Hang on. There you go. So you should have that message now. So please immediately copy my email address out, send me a message, and we can sort out a call. And that goes the same for anyone on this call. You know, if you've got questions, if you want to get back to us, you can contact me, steve.salisbury@runecast.com. If I can't, you know, if it's more sales related, I can pass you on to the correct person. If you need a demo call, or, you know, if you've just got technical questions, you know, please reach out to us.
Yeah, my email address, steve.betterson@runecast.com. Please reach out if you have any technical questions, or there's anything you've seen today would like to discuss. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're absolutely available for you. So I hope that this has been enlightening, and you've, you know, got some great information there of how to move forwards, especially with your vulnerability management. We'd like to thank you very much for joining this Runecast Insight, and wish you the best for the rest of your day. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for attending. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Steve. Great to work with you.